can go ahead.
You want to wait a minute?
Yeah, we can wait. Since I only have 6 people.
Hold on, let me just yell something in the other chat.
Can I ping like at Democratic Party there? No, I cannot. Cringe. Okay.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the DEM server.
No, we're gonna hold with what we have, I think.
That's
Like I
fine.
said, if we couldn't get them in depth.
Hey, Sandy. Well, we can't ping. I could never be.
All right, I think we're gonna get. This is probably the best we're gonna get. So we're gonna go ahead and do this, so at least we can say we did a debate. All right, so we've agreed to the rules in advance. So we all agreed to the format of the debate. So we will go ahead, without further ado, we will go ahead and flip a coin to determine who will be opening first, or whoever will have the choice to open first. So let me go ahead and do the coin in town hall chat. And all right, so everyone go to town hall chat to check for the coin. Oh wait, fuck! I forgot to get someone to call it. Hole, call it, and I'll flip it again.
Heads.
Heads. Okay. It is tails. Wonder, you get the choice. Would you like to go first or second?
Second.
All right. All right. Very well. Hole, your opening statement.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, my fellow Americans, members of the Democratic Party, and members of Congress, the executive and legislative branches. I'm feeling here that I'm the best man out of me and Wanda to represent our party for president. I think that the Democratic Party over the last few months has been on a resurgence, which has been in part due to the leadership of the Democratic National Committee, which I've been chair and vice chair of through this entire period. I think that what I've done to, or helped to do with the party, I can help to do with the country as well. Wanda is a perfectly valid candidate here, somebody who I've worked with closely in the past, and I'm happy with whichever candidate the Democratic Party chooses to become our nominee for president. Today we're not just asking the members of the party to vote for the Democratic nominee, we're also asking them to vote for the Socialist nominee. And something that should play on the minds of every voter is which candidate here is most likely to be able to rally the support of the Socialist Party behind them. I feel that I am that candidate who I have had a spotty past with the Socialist Party, but the Socialist Party have recently shown more support, especially among some of their higher-ups for a whole ticket. Either way, today we're going to have a conversation, we're going to have a debate, and the better man will come out on top. Whether that's me or Wanda, I don't know yet, but I hope it's me. And I wish Wanda the best of luck.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Wonder, your opening statement.
It's good to be here. I'm glad I'm debating Hole and happy he's here as well. I think both of us would make great candidates. I think we both have extensive history and both legislative and in terms of positions and understanding of policy. I personally feel I may be a better candidate, although Hole is a great candidate as well. I feel I may just be a little bit better. I look forward to answering the questions and speaking to the people and hearing what they have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wonder. We will now be moving to the first moderated questions. As I mentioned earlier, you each will get 2 minutes for a response to the questions I asked you, and then your opponent will get a 1 minute response followed by a 45-second level to that response. So it's a 2 minute, 1 minute, 45 format. So the first question will be actually the same for both of you. If elected as president, further down the line, what are your priorities once you enter office, and how do you plan to achieve? Mr. Wonder, you'll go ahead and start, followed by Mr. Hull.
I have several things I want to complete. I want to establish a workers program for illegal immigrants. I also, of course, my national transit system. I want to expand full protections for the Equality Act for LGBTQ community to fully prevent discrimination. And I plan to do that by working with my cabinet and members of Congress to draft a bill which everyone can agree on and pass it with bipartisan cooperation. And I forgot to add, I also want to do I want to work on Social Security, because currently this session has been highly involved with Social Security reform, whether it be abolishing it completely, which I am extremely opposed to, and I would rather, instead of getting rid of the system completely, improve on it and make it so it doesn't go bankrupt by 2035. And I think if my cabinet and members of Congress can work together on a solution that everyone can get behind, then we could actually get something done that does more than just sound good on a piece of paper.
30 seconds.
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Hull, you have 1 minute for a response if you'd like.
I don't wish to make a response. I'll go to my response with the question, though.
All right, very well. 2 minutes starting now.
Okay. So I think the main points, I haven't yet released the platform. It's in production at this point. But I do have a number of points that I want to get across, and a number of actions I want to take as president. One of the main ones is judicial reform. We've seen on here a number of times we have a problem with our judicial system. One of the problems is the appeal system. We don't have one. We used to have one in the district courts, and I think we need to re-establish the district courts. That is a matter for SCOTUS to do, but I will be strongly urging the members of SCOTUS to re-establish the district courts, and also passing legislation or pushing to pass legislation through the House which will better regulate and allow them to act in a more proper manner. Another thing, Wanda did speak about Social Security, and it's something me and him agree on a lot. I'm committing here to repealing, if it is signed and passed, to repealing and undoing the changes put forwards by Mr. Abdullah, if it is signed into law, which I very much hope it isn't. But if it is, I will be moving to repeal that and replace it with a system along the very similar lines of what Mr. Wonder put forwards, the lines of making it work within itself, reforming the system, no privatization within the system, making sure that the system is still state-controlled and state-owned. As soon as we start adding in the uncertainty of the private sector, we will start to see uncertainty about pensions, and I don't think we should ever allow our pensioners, the people who have worked so hard in the past to make our country what it is today, to be left high and dry by the government that represents them. Another thing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Your time. Sorry. All right, Mr. Wonder, you have 1 minute to respond if you so choose.
I don't.
Okay. Very well. We'll move on to the next question. So in the so this is a Democratic primary debate, as you both know. What sets you apart from your opponent? This is another question for both of you. What sets you apart from your opponent, and why you think the Democratic voters should support you for the nomination over your opponent? We will go ahead and start with Mr. Hull, followed by Mr. Wonder. Your 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Smith. So, as I've said before, me and Wonder, we're both wonderful guys. I think. I hope I'm a wonderful guy. We are both great choices for the party, and I think the party is excellent, whichever one of us it chooses. We are fundamentally different, however. I have been a member who has stuck by the Democratic Party through thick and thin, only leaving twice in my 9 months here. Actually, longer than that, 11 months here. The first time was because I was on the court, and I feel that that judicial impartiality and judicial I feel that the justice system needs to be impartial, which is one of the reforms I hope to bring is to making it so that the judges do have to be properly impartial. Another thing is when I did leave another time when I felt I was pushed out of the party by those who were in leadership at the time, and Wonder left it with me at the same time there. The difference is that Wonder left and joined the Republican Party, whereas I left and sat as an independent for a few weeks. I've always been a strong supporter in the ideals of the Democratic Party. I'm in real life I am a member of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom. One of the main things I want to get across is I have always been a strong representative of the Democratic Party. I have always represented democratic ideals in every job I've held, and I've done things to protect those ideals. Wonder, my opposition, a wonderful candidate, but he has sat in the Senate as a Republican senator and caucused with the Republicans in the Senate. As much as bipartisanship is something which is wonderful, and I do completely agree with the principles of bipartisanship, I've been a very bipartisan member myself through various things, such as...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Wonder, you have 1 minute for a response, or we can move to your response to the question.
Look, here's the deal. Number one, when I left to become an independent, Hull got his little story wrong. I came back to be a Democrat for another 2 months. In that time, when I did leave, I didn't call another member an arrogant bastard. Okay? That's number one. Number two, all right? I was a GOP member for 1 month because I feel I didn't truly fit in that party anymore. And when I joined that party, and when I joined the GOP, I just did not see that I fit well and felt that I was better fit in the Democratic Party after all. So I did leave the party for 1 month. There's no denying that. I can't deny that. And I was a GOP member, but I just truly just didn't feel my views fit there. I was too left-leaning there to be a Republican, and I just see myself better fit there. But Hull can't go and say that I left and been an independent in June and just, went to the GOP in June, because I was only a GOP member for 1 month.
Thank you, Mr. Wonder. Mr. Hull, you have 45 seconds for a
Thank
final
you.
vote.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I do note how you bring up me calling a member not a very nice thing. That's something that did happen, and I accept that did happen. That was in response to him telling me to shush, which is a rather arrogant thing to do. So, I mean, I wasn't completely wrong. Another thing, yes, I completely, I did get my timing mixed up, but that wasn't the point here. The point wasn't the timing here. The point was that you did go and join the Republican Party, and that you did go and not just join them, but caucus with them in the Senate and caucus against the Democrats in the Senate. You said that you didn't feel like you fitted into the Democratic Party when you left. I mean, at the time, I think I was chair when you left. What's changed between then and now, which has mean you now feel that you are somebody who fits into the Democratic Party, whereas a few months ago you felt the complete opposite, enough to the point where you had to leave, not just to become an independent, but to become a member of the party we most strongly a different from.
All right. Thank you. So, Mr. Wonder, you have your 2-minute response to the initial question. That would be starting now. So the original question, just as a reminder, why should the Democrats choose you over your opponent to be the Democratic nominee? So go ahead with your response, Paul, or not Paul, Wonder, starting now.
Well, let me respond to what he responds. So,
Okay.
okay, so I was gone for a month, right? I left that party because I didn't feel I fit, which is true, but I was in the GOP, and after seeing their views and what they believe, I just feel I didn't fit there better, and I left and I came back also seeing the reforms that were done. I said I'd come back if there were good reforms that would make the party more big tent, more inclusive, would allow for new changes that gave new ideas, that allowed people to start working to rise up so they wouldn't just be, left and stuck as a representative for just a few months and not get anywhere, even if they put in all their hard effort. And I think that's shown with the new leadership. And to reiterate, I feel what separates us most maybe is on some of our policy. Cole and I do agree on lots of policy, but we may also disagree on certain types of policy, maybe transits, national transit, healthcare reform, things like that we may disagree on, but we don't completely disagree on nearly everything.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wonder. Mr. Hull, you have a 1-minute response if you so choose.
Yeah, I'll respond. Okay. We do have differences, and I think this is a campaign of differences. It has to be. It would be pointless having two carbon copies up for election here. You brought up your transit reform. Yeah, I completely believe. Your transit system. I completely believe in a transit system. What I don't believe in is Wonder's system of. I think he's thinking too big here. You're thinking of transit systems connecting cities. We have people who can't even get to work using their city transit systems, and these are issues that the cities aren't sorting out. Right? These are issues that states aren't sorting out. We need to very much push. I'm not saying we need to enforce this, but we need to push states to prioritize local transit. We don't. On a national level, it's nice. It'd be nice for me to take a train from New York to Los Angeles, but I would much rather be able to get to work every day in an economically friendly way than having to go halfway across the city on mass transit.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. Mr. Wonder, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
All right. Well, yes, I do think we should have one which connects from very long distances, but in my plan, I also hope to push for more local transit, like Hull is pointing out here. I think we can have both. We can have one run on the national level, and we can have states that can run their own local, so that people can also get to work, but can also travel long distance. And I also hope to, in my national transit system, along with local, see if we can find more cleaner energy and new types of transportation that can make it better and more better for the environment.
Time. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wonder. All right, so we'll now be moving into the next question. Let's see. Let me go ahead and find an audience question here. I cannot find. All right, ignore that. All right, so we'll be moving on to the next moderator question. And after the moderator question, if it's all right with both of you, we can move into a cross-examination section. Both of you will be allowed each other, if that's all right.
Of course.
Okay. Wonder, good with that?
Of course.
All right. All right. So the final moderator question involves something that will be quite often, depending on the result of the election, is working with other parties. So in the event of, let's say, if either of you are elected, and let's say the Senate has a right majority or a right-leaning speaker, how do you plan to work with said officials in opposite parties who may not agree with your primary ideas to be able to work with them to achieve the goals that you this question, Mr. Wonder will start, followed by Mr. Hall.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yes. So, how will you plan to work with members of the opposite party, whether it be Republican, depending on who's in charge, as part of the commonly known right caucus, I guess you could say. How do you plan to work with them to achieve the primary goals set out earlier question?
Well,
So,
okay. Well, I have a great relationship with members of the right, and I work well with them, and am currently working on some legislation with members of the right now. I hope to, when a potential Wonder administration would be drafting legislation, we would hope to involve them in the drafting of it, so they would see what bill is being created. They could put their input, what they disagree with, what they agree with, and how the bill can be improved upon, so that everyone likes it and it can pass and it can actually do good. I would really want to be the communication president. I would want to communicate with members of other parties and hope to work together instead of just trying to ram a bill through and just trying to hope it passes without any whipping against it.
all right. So, Mr. Hull, you have a 1-minute response if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Would we be able to be informed as to what bill you're working on currently with members of the right, Mr. Wonder?
Well, it's more an amendment, but I don't know if I can say it yet because I'm not sure if those members want me to reveal it. It's 2 members, I believe, of actually 2 separate right-wing parties, and it's a good bill which is detailed and will bring good reform to the server, and overall can make a lasting better change that the server desperately needs.
15 seconds.
Okay. I mean, I think you said you work well with the right, and we've seen that as a member of the Republican Party. I think that you have shown a past of bipartisanship. I mean, your current ticket at the moment is bipartisan. That's all I've really got to say in response there. But I'm not going to dispute that you're a bipartisan person.
All right. So in that case, I guess we can move on to Mr. Hull's response to the question of how would you work other parties to achieve your goal?
Well, I mean, for me, I think. Thank you. For me, I think the proof's in the pudding. I have been on this server for a very, very long time, since January. My first bill that I passed, I worked extremely hard to make sure it was a bipartisan piece of legislation. I worked with members of the Democratic Party, the Socialist Caucus in the Democratic Party at the time, was on the right as well, to produce a passable piece of legislation which regarded the environment. It regarded increasing nuclear power, because we see that we are running out of oil, and that passed wonderfully. Every bill I have written, every piece of legislation I have written or co-written has been bipartisan. I've always worked. I mean, as president and as vice president under McKenna, I worked very closely with the Speaker of the House at the time, who was a Republican. I worked very closely with the Senate Majority Leader at the time, who is now a Republican, but at the time was on the right-hand side of the Democratic Party, who is actually the person that me and Wanda will be running against come the election. I think I've shown time and time again I'm a bipartisan president. My cabinet was bipartisan both times. I did inherit them, but I had to maintain that cabinet. I don't think I've ever done anything which is anti-bipartisanship. I've always been someone who makes sure that everybody's voice is heard, because at the end of the day, I'm not just the president of the Democratic Party or the president of the Socialist Party. I'm a president who would have been elected with a mandate from all parties, and a president who's been there to represent all parties.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hull. Mr. Wonder, you have 1 minute for a response if you choose.
I don't want to respond. I mean, yeah, Hull's a very bipartisan person.
Okay. All right, very well. We will go ahead and move into the cross-examination section debate. Like I said, the rules sort of apply here. This one's not going to be as strictly timed. You'll kind of have a bit more freedom for a little bit more of the back and forth. Hull, since you answered the last question, you will get the first question for Ms.
Oh, I get the first question. Okay. Right. What's your stance on foreign policy, especially China?
Well, I'm not Dixon and say that we should go to war with him. I think we need to severely stop what they are doing to to people if their human rights abuse, and I think we need to negotiate with them a lot. We need to stop trade deals, which are terrible for our economy, and we need to also communicate with them on nuclear proliferation. But none of this can happen if we keep having nukes pointed at each other. We have to work together and communicate. I think to overall talk about my foreign policy standpoint is just I wouldn't want to get involved I'm a non-interventionist. I wouldn't want to get involved in something unless we have to, or unless we were directly involved with it.
I'm sorry, but I mean, you're listing a number of things that I think we can all agree with. I think we can all agree that we won't have that we don't want to have the Chinese have concentration camps. I think we can all agree that we don't want to have nuclear missiles pointed at each other. What I didn't hear there was a plan. Do you have a plan on your foreign policy? And another thing, you say you're a non-interventionalist, but how well did non-intervention help us in the Second World War? How well did non-intervention help us in the First World War? It just led to, at the end of the day, more American lives dying, more Americans dying. I think that as much as non-interventionalism is a noble idea, and it's an idea that protects American lives in the short term, in the long term, it's an appalling idea. Just think if we hadn't have got involved in Europe in 1940, we would have had a Europe almost completely controlled by a hostile power whose eyes were very squarely on us as the United States as its next target after the Soviet Union. Non-intervention doesn't work in the long run, and I think that you've got to be firm but fair with intervention. You've got to intervene only when it's necessary to intervene, and intervene in a way which won't lead to a huge number of deaths. But I think at the end of the day, what's your plan? You gave us ideas. What's your plan?
I told you about lots of negotiations, and if that doesn't work, I have a large number of cabinets who can express ideas, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk. Hold on! Don't interrupt me. I'm talking, sir. Okay. I'm going to go into it more on my platform, and I want to set up several summits with the leader of China, leader of Russia, and there are several issues going on right now which can severely affect Americans right now, that we have to negotiate and have a summit with them now. That they may seem abstract. With
what issues?
Okay. Look at Kashmir, India. Over these past few months, India has been been more hostile. First, starting with them being extremely hostile against Pakistan, even declaring war on them, which was only resolved by U.S. interventionism, with a summit as us as moderators. They have been way more hostile towards surrounding countries, including China, and these two countries both have the largest populations combined. Even together, they have the largest population because they keep outbeating each other, and they are both rapidly growing. And if these two countries continue to be hostile towards each other, we could be seeing a war which could be a disaster economically, in terms of lives.
But you've just said you're a
production.
non-interventionalist. Why are you now pushing an idea of intervention if you're a non-interventionalist?
Only as a moderator in a summit.
Oh, so you would
not.
So you're intervening as an arbitrator.
Not sending troops in unless we have to.
Well, no, I completely agree with you there. I completely agree with not putting American lives at risk unless it is a necessity. But that's not what non-interventionalism is.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. In that case, we'll go ahead and allow Wonder to go ahead and ask your question to Paul.
What's your foreign policy standpoint?
I'm very glad you asked. So one of my main points of foreign policy is to create a dam against China. Their influence is expanding. We've seen them building military bases in places in Africa, in Pakistan, trying to push and expand their influence to expand their influence out of the South China Sea and into the Indian Ocean. This is something we've got to stem, and one of the main ways I think we can stem this is by what I said, a dam. And what I mean by a dam is by improving relations in Europe, improving relations in Africa, improving relations in Southeast Asia and Oceania, creating a belt running from Europe through Africa across the Indian Ocean to Australasia, to dam in their influence, to stop them from being able to create these military bases. I mean, in a lot of cases, it's already too late. In a lot of cases, they have built these bases, and we're going to have to find ways to contain them. But especially when it comes to China, improving relations in Europe. This means strengthening NATO, speaking to our NATO allies and asking them to give a little bit more, because we notice at this time that the world is moving into an era of threat again, an era of tension, and we can't expect our allies to completely rely on us. We've got to expect our allies to help to put some in themselves. But this doesn't mean we're shirking off our commitment. So we need to strengthen our alliances in Australia, in Australasia, Africa, build alliances in Africa, and there's a number of ways we can do that. We can speak to, we can look into forming organisations or speaking to existing organisations such as the Commonwealth about how we can work better together. Because alliances and friendships aren't just built militarily; they're also built through trade, through friendships, through working together on civil things, as well as on military, in a military way. Another thing is through also building up a relationship with Europe. I want to we're operating with the European Union at the moment, one of our closest allies, without a trade deal, trading on WTO terms. This is damaging, not just to our alliance between us and Europe, but also to our own economy. Europe is a great place to sell our goods. We are culturally similar. The things that we produce here will most likely go over quite well in Europe. This is something we can do to build up our economy, get a good trade deal with Europe, allow us to have a good access into their market. Because I mean, it's not like negotiating a trade agreement with Germany, France individually. It's a block, a massive trade block that we can really take advantage of economically, and work to strengthen our alliances over there.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I gotta go, actually.
You've got to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did you want to go ahead and give a quick closing statement before you head out?
No, I gotta go, actually, really. Something's happening.
Okay.
Oh,
Bye.
that's fine. All right. So, Cole, if you want to, we can, if you want to, we might be able to open up the, we might be able to open up to the people here and just do like a small style thing.
Sure. If you want me to, I can.
I mean, like I say, it's completely up to you.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, let's do it. Let's take some questions.
All right. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and open the floor.
As I noticed that everyone here is either a Libertarian or a Republican. Maybe these are the swing voters.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and let's go. Everyone in chat. Let's go and roast Hole. Let's go and roast Hole for being a dirty liberal. But
No, don't arrest. Endorse.
Oh. No, we're not going to arrest you. We're just going to roast you.
Oh, roast. Oh, sorry. I thought I was going to prison.
It's like we're not on that auth right yet. I mean, let's to the lib right. You're fine. But no, you're going to get teased about it, but you're not going to get arrested. So don't worry.
Not yet.
But
I know how it works.
Yeah, I wish we would have gone a little bit longer, but that's fine.
Yeah.
There'll be some nice general election debates, I'm sure, that will come up if you make it that far. Which I mean, even if Wonder makes it that far, we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I'm sure there will be some great third party, or there will be some great general election debates. And
yep. So, has anybody got any questions they want to ask about my campaign?
I don't know. Is everything locked down, or do I need to unlock that, or how do I do that?
I don't think they're force muted. I think they can talk. Oh, Abraham has a question.
Okay.
If you could unmute him.
Yeah, I don't think we have force meeting them though.
We do.
Hold on,
They
wait.
are self-muted. There you go. I've unmuted them. There you go.
Okay, good. All right. So they should be.
Hello?
Hello, Abraham.
Oh yeah, there.
Hi, Hall.
Hi.
Firstly, I think you did very well, at least in that segment.
Mhm.
I'll be making sure to tell my DEM guys to vote for you. Secondly, I have a question about guns.
Yes.
What will you do as a president to
Mhm.
affect my right to keep and bear arms?
To affect. Oh, okay. Well, that's a question, isn't it? That's a rather large question. I think I know that. I mean, of course, in real life, as we're talking, there is an incident going on in Vienna regarding a shooting. But I think that one of the main points I have, one of the main things I think, is that the constitutional right to bear arms must be protected. You have that constitutional right, right? There is nothing as a president that I should be doing, because I swear an oath. There is nothing I should be doing to to stop your ability to legally and keep and bear arms, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, right, we do need protections, and we do need to ensure that people aren't guns aren't falling into the wrong people's hands. And I think as long as we are pushing reform, gun reform, which ensures that they're not going into the wrong people's hands, but also doesn't overly restrict or overly burden the completely legal gun owners and gun enthusiasts, I think we're set there. So
You would be against a licensing system?
A licensing system.
Because in a lot of the states that have it, it can often take like up to a month to actually obtain a firearm.
Mm-hmm. So it's not right. It's not something I'd push during my term, right? A licensing system. I wouldn't push forwards a licensing system during my term. Do I think that they work? I think they work if they're properly funded. I think a licensing system could work quite well if it was properly funded, because it's something that instead the person would be, if you have that license and that license is properly registered and everything, you are known not to be the wrong person, if you get what I mean. You're not a criminal, and it means that you can just walk into a shop, show your license, they can scan it or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's the way I want it to work. Is you walk in, they scan it, it goes to a system just to see whether it's a valid license or not, comes back, and then off you go, right, with your firearm completely legally bought.
Okay. One more question, and I'm not trying to debate you. I just want to get your thing on.
Of course.
So, in terms of rifles, right? So, I'm obviously an advocate of people keeping and bearing the same arms as the military, right? Which we don't have right now. I wish we did. But in terms of the diversity of weapons we could have, would you do anything to limit that?
From where it currently is?
Yeah.
Like I said, gun reform isn't something that's really on the top of my agenda for running for president. I wouldn't do anything.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
That's all I
I
need
would
to hear.
ask my cabinet to pass any gun legislation.
Okay, you got my votes.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty single issue voter.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smith, you gotta unmute Lamary.
No, he doesn't.
Oh.
No, yeah, we already took the server mute off, so
Okay.
it should be good.
Hello, Lemaire. Or Lamary, sorry.
It's Lemaire.
Oh,
It's Lemaire. You got it right the first time.
Okay.
I would hope you would have got it right the first time, because that's how I've said my name to you, and every time we've ever talked.
Yes.
But,
yeah. I mean, it's just Abraham threw me off there. I wanted to.
Yeah, indeed. I appreciate you wanting to clarify to be correct. It's very presidential of you.
Thank you.
But so I caught the tail end of when Wonder was here, and you were talking about foreign policy. So, I have a couple questions really. Since it does have it is related to gun control and gun reform, but since we're on the topic, it's just like a mild question. I have a proposal of like what I would see sensible, and I want to see if you think this is sensible as well.
Of course.
So the only gun control measures that I would support would be that one, you're a law-abiding citizen. That's a universal thing that everyone can agree on. And two, that you should be able to obtain any weapon system provided you are trained, you're qualified trained personnel on that weapon as to how to operate it, and
So, if I may step in here for a second.
Yeah.
So, are you saying you support mandatory training for firearms in order to get one. So, for example, if I
Indeed.
wanted to buy a pistol, I would have to be trained on that pistol before I could buy it.
So hunters, to get a hunting and fishing license, you already have to go to hunter's ed and fisher's ed. It'd be sort of like the same thing. If when I say okay, so you're trained to operate a pistol, therefore you're able to buy any kind of pistol.
Mhm.
You're trained to operate a long rifle. You can buy any kind of long
Right.
rifle.
Yeah.
You're trained to operate a tactical weapon. You can obviously buy that tactical weapon.
Okay. Yeah. What's the question?
So yes, this would it would be. Would you support a mandatory training on certain classifications of weapons to be before you able to buy them?
Of course, I'll answer that. Like I've said, I'm not pushing forwards any gun reform during my term. I'm not going to be asking my cabinet to do any gun reform during my term. I wouldn't. If that bill landed on my desk, passed by both houses, I wouldn't veto. But I mean, that's more along the lines of I only really veto things if I deem them to be overly damaging or unconstitutional, which I don't think that is in either count. But like I said, I'm not someone who I don't want to push any gun reform during my term. And if a bill lands on my desk, I would have to think like I would have to think about how it works with the Second Amendment to see whether it was completely constitutional. I would speak to legal advice and get their view on it before I was to sign it. If they viewed it to be completely constitutional, then I would sign it. I have vetoed as president before. I vetoed a human rights bill, which wasn't very popular at the time. Me vetoing it, I vetoed it not because I disagree with human rights or think that locking people up without giving them fair trial is a good thing. I vetoed it because I saw it as unconstitutional and was advised that it was unconstitutional because it contained within it a ban on all slavery, which would have violated the 13th Amendment, which allows slavery as a punishment, which is why I vetoed it. I did say you can repass this with the right way, and anyway, that's my main thing. I won't sign any unconstitutional legislation.
I have two questions before I go. So the
Okay.
first one is sort of regarding partisanship, right?
Yep.
So when HR 22, like I was asking Lilburn whether or not he'd sign it. Personally, he agreed with. Okay, I personally he may or may not have agreed with the bill, right? But he stated that first thing when he looked at it, right, he said it was okay and he wouldn't veto. But then, right after it went through the rounds and he saw the SPOs against it, he said that he would veto, otherwise it'd be political suicide.
Yes.
So my question is, if you were in a situation where you had a bill that you knew would be good for the American people, but you would get backlash for signing, would you sign it?
I'd have to think about the future. That's the main thing I'd have to think about. So if I was to if I had, for example, a bill lands on my desk and I'm told it's a good bill, or it's just a bill that's landed, I'm being pushed by my party or by the Socialist Party to veto it, I would first have to look at that bill myself and think, okay, is this a constitutional piece of legislation? Do these meet my requirements for a bill to be passed, right? So is it is it not just absolutely crazy? So like, is it well written? Ambiguities. If there's too many ambiguities, you can't really sign it because it's. Do you get what I mean? It's got to reach a number of conditions.
So, what I'm more asking is,
I know,
would you succumb to party
yeah.
lines?
So, on the party line issue, I think that, like I said, I've got to look to the future. If I was to veto a piece of legislation based on what my party wanted. It could then lead to me falling out with Congress, with the members that I'd been trying to work in a bipartisan way with, which is negative, right? That's definitely bad, right? If I was to veto, it could lead to if I wasn't to veto and sign it, it could lead to kind of the parties abandoning the presidency, not working to pass bills put forwards by the administration, and those kind of issues. So I would have to balance up on how important they felt the issue was, and how serious and valid their concerns were, as to whether I would veto it.
Okay. And then the last question is, in terms of regulation, right? The U.S. currently, there's around $2 trillion in regulatory burden, which is around 10% of our GDP.
Mm-hmm.
So 10% of our GDP alone goes to regulation.
Yep.
What can you do to reduce this amount and reduce the $10,000 cost per employee strain on small businesses?
Right. So this is not my strong suit at all. Especially economics has never been one of my strong suits, and I'm the first to say that. I'm somebody who's very honest in how I feel. I think I would have to speak with whoever I would appoint as my Secretary of the Treasury, who would most likely have a lot more knowledge on this. I would also go and consult with members of Congress who have a much deeper knowledge on regulation and on the economy, and gather their opinions first, and form together what I would see as a cohesive side of a number of opinions, a lot of opinions, and then go with whichever side was stronger on the issue. I think regulation is something, whilst needed in some aspects, isn't needed in others.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely regulation where it protects people is important. Where it protects
So social
the environment.
regulation.
Yeah, social regulation, environmental regulation is important. It's when the
Sure.
regulation is there for just as a bit of federal overreach, or there is just kind of for no real or apparent reason, because we get regulation which is just kind of there and nobody really knows why it's there, and it doesn't really do very much except for cost money, like I don't know, for example, a regulation which says that bananas have to be straight and not bendy, or something like that, something pointless. Do you get what I mean? I completely agree with stripping all of that away. We don't need pointless regulation. We need meaningful regulation which makes change.
So in terms of social regulation versus economic regulation, did you know that 75% of the regulation in the US is economic, meaning it's barriers to entry or controlling price?
Right.
So, all right, that was my question. I gotta head out, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Abraham. Are there any
All right.
yes.
Yeah, I'd like to ask my second question, since I was cut off, but I didn't mind because he had to leave. But so, my main question here is on foreign policy.
Mm-hmm.
So, other than talking about China as you and Wonder were, as you and Wonder were doing, what other nations or entities, it could be a terrorist organization, what other nations or entities do you believe pose the greatest threat
So I
to
think
the United States, and what would you do to combat them?
what I would say
your president.
Oh, sorry. What I would say here is it's not just it poses a threat to the United States. We are a member of NATO, which means we've got to look at nations that pose a threat to our allies as well. These are nations like Australia, most of Europe. And the nations that pose the largest threats to, for example, Europe, are nations like Russia, Iran, being much closer to Europe, would probably be Europe would probably, if they were to have nuclear weapons, it would probably be on the top of their hit list, would be to hit European cities. So North Korea, obviously with our Asian allies such as Japan and South Korea. So I think one of the main points here is that we do have so-called bad guys in the world. We have Russia, we have Iran, we have China, we have North Korea. These countries which see us as the enemy, and will do everything in their power to try and stop us from succeeding. And I think this barrier, this dam that I described, running from Europe through Africa across the Indian Ocean and to Australia, and really it does flow further. It flows across the southern Pacific to South America and up to where we are. Right, it's a big kind of protective bubble around the people we see as the bad guys. I think that dam idea is something that's very, very important. It can very much stop their influence from spreading of all of these powers. I also think that we should be moving more of our military into places like Europe, because increasing a military presence in Europe, when they're there, they're not under threat, really. You're not going to be getting soldiers driving down an autobahn in Germany and getting shot at from the sides of the road. The same with if they were in the United Kingdom or France or Spain. So it's a relatively safe place for them to be, and it allows them us to apply pressure to Russia and counterbalance them, and also allows us to gain better relations with our allies, because we are seen as actively instead of passively protecting them.
I get that entirely, and if you don't mind, I'd like to put a personal thing with IRL.
Of course.
My reserve unit's actually, and this coming June is actually doing a rotation to Poland. And as of right now, I'm on that list for the rotation because of my job in the military.
Yep.
But I'm working to get off that job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working to get off that rotation so that I can pursue college.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and since we're the only ones here now,
Oh, 1 sec. I am recording this.
Okay.
I will stop the recording if you want me to. Do you want me to stop it?
Yes, because